I'm gonna fight a moth. I'm sorry if I didn't have internet to not deserve to get punched, but I've actually never heard the I'm gonna fight a moth meme for Seven Nation Army before until I was listening to it on Elephant and looking at some of the comments, and I got a really big laugh out of it. I thought that was great. um I'm looking at my notes. I had a completely different way I was gonna start the video, and then I was like, hold on a second. This is gonna be great. The way I intended to start was by saying that Stevie Wonder's Superstition is one of my favorite songs of all time. And anytime I hear it when I'm driving, which usually is on the radio, unless I'm just like listening to my phone and I'm listening to that song on my phone. Whenever I hear Superstition, my immediate reaction is turn the radio up, roll the windows down. And there are some songs that are just like, that is a radio up, windows down kind of song. And the White Stripes in general just kind of have that vibe. Like, there are a lot of times where I was listening to their music, some of the early albums, some of the middle albums, some of the later albums, which means there's only 6. So it's like the first 2, the middle 2, the last 2. Or like, yeah, this is a song that I would love to just blast while driving down the freeway, or even just like driving around the lake, just even if it's like a really nice relaxing drive. Nah, we're gonna blast this because this music is great. One of the main characters in Orichalcum, in my book, she has a motorcycle, and there were points, I think it was specifically when I was listening to White Blood Cells, where I was like, yeah, I could see Athena listening to this while on her bike. That's awesome. Like, oh, I'm just having a blast. This music is really cool, and this music is really fun. So over the course of this week, I believe it was Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I listened to all 6 of the White Stripes studio albums. And my familiarity with them going in begins and ends with Seven Nation Army. I'd heard, I can tell that we are gonna be friends, because I've seen Napoleon Dynamite, but I had no idea that was a White Stripes song. I didn't know that until I started doing the marathon, and I think, because like what I do is I go onto Wikipedia, just be like, okay, what's the list of albums? Click on this album. How many tracks are there? Okay. Now let me go onto YouTube to make sure like I can find a playlist that has all the tracks, or if I can just find a single video that has the entire album, which some of these I was able to do the whole album in one go. Some of them were just like several separate videos. But I was like, oh, like I recognize this. Oh, I had no idea that was them. But this is an experience I really enjoyed. I really liked the blues rock fusion that a lot of their music has. And I love that that was something in their style that never really changed. And while I can say I think there are some stylistic elements of their music that do change as you go through, for the most part, it's more or less the same. The only real big change I can note, aside from, like, I think they do get better as they go on, and I think there is a bit more studio mixing, but it's not to the point where, like, it's overproduced. Like, you very much still feel that, like, raw, authentic energy and just talent throughout. But the songs get longer. That's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just the first 2 albums is like, these are really short. And I weirdly kind of like that. Like, it feels like no song overstays its welcome. And then you get to Elephant, or I think it's Ball and Biscuit. It's like damn near 7.5 minutes. But it was a really good 7.5 minutes. So again, it's not a good thing or a bad thing, because there's some, what was it? I think Hypnotize was the only track on Elephant that was like under 3 minutes, or was the only one that was like under 2 minutes. And it was also really good. And then here's the 7.5 minute one, which is also really good. And that's the biggest style change I can note is, yeah, the songs got longer. They were still good when they were short. They were still good when they were long. I did take notes as I went through each album. Although, like, I'll be honest, when I was listening to Icky Thump, I just didn't take any notes. I was just listening to music, watching basketball, didn't really stop. For their first album, just The White Stripes, their self-titled debut, to me, the two words I use to describe this album are raw and heavy, where, yeah, like, you can tell, like, there's not a lot of mixing going on here. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I've heard, like, one of their genres and something that they really did a lot of influences is garage band rock, or, like, garage rock. It's called something like that. Like, yeah, I can tell. But not in a mean way. I'm like, yeah, this sounds like the shit I would hear just out of someone's garage. Like, this sounds like two musicians jamming in their garage in the best possible way. And yeah, there's so much energy in a lot of these songs. Like, it opens with Jimmy the Exploder, which I really liked. And it was a song that I noted because it was that, what was the other one? I think it was something Bricks. Broken Bricks is the other one. Like, this sounds like a video game OST where it's just, here you are, here's the enemies, go to town and kick ass. And I thought that was really fun. This was also had Big 3 Killed My Baby, which very much felt like Resistance music. I was like, this doesn't sound like a cyberpunk kind of song, because there's not like a lot of synth or like electronic music, but it feels like it has the vibe of something I would hear in a cyberpunk kind of setting, maybe some kind of like steampunk, like big Resistance story, I don't know, like some post-apocalyptic. But it was really cool, and I really liked it. And like I said earlier, yeah, I appreciated that the songs were all pretty short. It's like, all right, get in, have some fun, get out, don't overstay your welcome. Now we get to the next one. Also, there was a cover of St. James Infirmary Blues, and I really like that song. Like, this is a good cover. I will say, I wasn't crazy about Jack's vocals at the start. There's like, I know Seven Nation Army, and I really like it, and I was like, okay. Some of it is just hard to hear because the music itself is so loud, I can kind of barely hear him. Because he has a kind of like a softer cadence. But some of it I was like, I don't know if I like his voice. We'll see how this goes. And then by the end of the album, I'm like, no, this works. This works. I like it. And I never really had that problem in the other 5. Distigal, I think that's the next one, or was it Distigi? I might have added an L that wasn't supposed to be there. To me, this feels a bit more polished than the last album, but I don't think it's because anything was mixed. I just think they got better and just kind of had a better vibe together, Meg and Jack. But I think it still feels raw, it still feels heavy, and a couple songs I noted with that were Let's Build a Home and Jumble Jumble being standouts in that regard. But I think my favorites were Truth Don't Make a Noise and Apple Blossom. I really liked those. What was Susie Lee? I think Susie Lee was on the self-titled album. I'm sorry, like, whenever I think of the self-titled album, I don't think of it as the self-titled album or the White Stripes. I just kind of keep referring to it in my head as Jimmy the Exploder because it was the opening track. Susie Lee was on Jimmy the Exploder, and I liked that one. That was a really nice song. White Blood Cells. So my understanding, because I did like a little bit of looking into it, is that this was the first album where they did actually do some mixing in the studio, but they intentionally rushed the process so it wouldn't sound super polished. It would still sound like really raw, and that worked. This was my favorite at that point. I think it was just really, really good. I didn't take a lot of notes aside from just, I loved it. I could tell that We Were Gonna Be Friends is a really good song. Shout out to my girl Susie Lee coming back again. I can't remember a lot of the other songs from it, like Off the Dome. But again, I just remember as I was listening to it, really enjoying the album. And then when we get to Elephant, I mentioned that Hypnotize was the one short track for the most part. They were more kind of standard length, usually about 3 to 4 minutes. And then there was Ball and Biscuit, which was 7.5, but it was really good. Seven Nation Army, it's one of the greatest songs of all time. It is my favorite of all the White Stripes songs that I listen to, but I really liked a lot of other songs. Couple others I wanted to highlight were On the Cold, Cold Night, which is the song where Meg had lead vocals, and her voice was just really pretty. I really, really liked that one. And I don't remember if this was the closing song, but it was near the end, was You've Got Her in Your Pocket. I really liked that one too. Then we get to Get Behind Me, Satan, which I'll say I think this one was my least favorite, and that's just because as I was listening to it, I felt myself kind of drifting, and not like, man, this music is bad, or like, the song is boring, but just for whatever reason, it wasn't quite holding me as much as the other 5 did. But I think it's really good. I think Blue Orchid is an amazing opening song, and I'm lonely, but I ain't that lonely yet. That was an amazing closing. And again, it's not like everything in the middle sucked. I think everything in the middle was good. Just for whatever reason, maybe I was just a little burnt out at that point. I don't know, but it didn't grab me the way the others did, but was still good with an amazing bookend. And like I said, I didn't really take notes during Icky Thump, but I enjoyed it. And the song that really stuck out to me was Rag and Bone. That was a really fun song. And so, for me, my ranking of the albums going from 6 to 1, I'm going to be honest. I think what's easiest for me to say is, sorry, my brain just forgot how to work for a second. I think Get Behind Me, Satan is my least favorite because it just didn't grab me as much as the others. Elephant and White Blood Cells are 1 and 2, and like a very, very close 1 and 2. And then Icky Thump, Jimmy the Exploder. Again, I know that's not what it's actually called. And Distigal. Again, maybe it's Distigi and I'm adding an L. I'm not 100. I've got my computer in front of me. Let me double check what is the name of the second album. Okay, it is Distigal, but there's no I between the J and the L, unless that's supposed to be a capital I, but I don't think it is. Okay, so I was getting it right, I just wasn't sure. To my point, Jimmy the Exploder, Distigal, and Icky Thump are all kind of tied, more or less. Like, even over these past few days, I've kind of gone back and forth a few times, like, Icky Thump was probably the best of those. I'm like, well, no, I really liked Distigal. I'm like, I really fucked with Jimmy the Exploder. Like, I had a really good time with that album. They're kind of all, like, tied-ish. So just my closing thoughts is that, number 1, I'm very glad that I decided to put them on my list and actually go through listening to them, that I binged them the way I did. Again, maybe I should have taken a break when I got to Get Behind Me, Satan. But I'm glad I binged them over the course of a few days, so it was all pretty fresh in my mind, and that I'm doing the video not long after that as well. And then I took some notes on it. I had a lot of fun going through their albums. And what I've tried to do with the last few artists I've done this with is to kind of have like a final statement summing up their music. And I think for me, with the White Stripes, it's less about their lyrical content and more about their overall style, which is, you don't need much to make art. There's only 2 members of the band. There's only, generally like 2 or 3 instruments in a song, like guitar, drums, and sometimes a piano. Several songs are under 3 limits. I was trying to say 3 minutes, but most, like, a good amount of songs are under 3 minutes. They're pretty short. There is little to no mixing in those first few albums, and I don't even know how much there is in the later albums. There's not a lot that goes in, like, from a production standpoint, because they didn't need much to kick ass. They didn't need much to make great art. And I understand that people have criticized Meg's drumming as, like, being too simple, but I think that works really well. Like, I actually really liked her drumming. And to me, that's kind of the beauty of the White Stripes. Again, like, you don't need much to make art, and there's beauty in simplicity. So, I think that's all I have to say for that. I think Guns N' Roses is gonna be next. I might change my mind and do something else, but we'll see. Whoever's next, looking forward to it.